Hello, following on from my previous video, I want to explain to you why lawyers can easily be made obsolete. Now, I'm not going to hide anything from you, they're not my favourite people, and I have a vested interest because I'm a journalist. We all loathe lawyers because of one of our most dreadful rules, libel. Now, the libel laws are a remnant of 18th century sedition law. Well, it's rather infuriating to live in a country that's always so stuck up itself about what a free society is, how we have a wonderful free press. It's hard to believe that when you can sue someone for libel and not have to prove that they're lying. It's a law perfectly designed for politicians who've been caught with their trousers down. And if you think that lives can be completely ruined by journalists, think about this. That man that Jeffrey Archer ruined, who committed suicide over Jeffrey Archer's win in that libel case, he wouldn't have died if we didn't have libel law. Also, or slander for that matter. Now, divorce. Now, I personally don't believe in marriage, so to me it's absolutely crazy to see couples ruining their lives, wasting money, sometimes thousands or millions that they've worked for, all into lawyers' pockets. I don't understand why you would want to do that. It's much better to just work it out 50-50, or better still, not get married at all. Marriage is obsolete. Marriage is an economic contract. It has nothing to do with love. You can make it, you can put that in it, but you don't need a piece of paper to show that you love someone. So why go through the risk? When a third of marriages in this country end in divorce, why go through the risk? Why let those dreadful lawyers get a revenue stream from misery? Next, patents. Now, in America, you can get a 20-year government-sponsored monopoly just on an idea. In the past, you couldn't get patents for things like software or algorithms, but since the 1980s, you can. And this is doing terrible harm to the internet. I mean, the internet's such a wonderful place, but it could be even better if we didn't have these silly analog age laws. These patent laws are obsolete. Inventors, by and large, successful inventors don't really think about money. They're obsessed with something and they will do anything to do it. Like the man who spent 10 years trying to work out how to make waterproof rubber and then accidentally spilt some sulfur on it. I mean, he lost any money he could have made out of it rapidly. Patents didn't encourage him, not one bit. And Amazon, overall a company I really admire, has done a terrible thing. They've created a monopoly on one click. Just clicking once to finish a transaction. That's their monopoly now. So other companies have to introduce an additional click, wasting people's time for no good reason. It's terrible, and I hope no one's put off other companies simply because of that, because that's what I call a dirty trick. Next, all these laws that we have banning drugs, gambling, prostitution, telling us what age we have to be when we can have sex, telling us what age we can be when we can go into a pub. None of these laws should ever have existed. They don't do any good. You can't ban things like this. No amount of laws is going to stop people from having sex under 16 or smoking marijuana. These laws do not work. All they do is take money away from the consumer, because being illegal these services cost more, and they take money away from the taxman, because of course if it's illegal it can't be taxed, and plonk it straight in the hands of organised crime. Before 1920, organised crime hardly existed, hardly had any power base, but then a load of American Puritans ban alcohol, and lo and behold, alcohol consumption goes up, deaths from into gang feuds skyrocket, and it probably contributed somewhat towards the Great Depression. And who are these people to tell us what we can or cannot take? You know, if you work in a petrol station, then I can understand a no smoking policy. If you're a forklift truck driver, I can understand drug tests. But to blanket ban everyone, that's outrageous. That's appalling. And the same goes for smuggling. Why do we need these laws, these tariffs, these duty barriers? Right? As far as I'm concerned, there's only one country, the world state. We should never have had tariffs or duties or export bans. We should treat the whole world as one marketplace. Everybody's going on about globalization. I don't see people rushing to create a world state. If you don't believe in a world state, then you don't believe in globalization, as far as I'm concerned. And the economy would be a hell of a lot more efficient if we worked with all the other economies in the world instead of fighting these soppy wars. I mean, I know we're not as protectionist as we used to be, but we still have these appalling restrictions. Not just on the movement of goods, but on the movement of people. These terrible immigration laws. You know, if someone hasn't committed a crime, you should welcome immigrants. They are way more productive than other people. They're mostly in their 20s and 30s. Most of them have a very strong work ethic because they don't see themselves surviving long. And they actually take less benefits than ordinary people in this country anyway. So to argue that they're all dole scroungers is appalling. And as for America, well, talk about shooting the goose that laid the golden eggs. How do you think America became the richest country in the world? Immigrants, right? So we don't need those laws either. In fact, Richard Susskind, the IT advisor to the Lord Chief Justice, has written a book called The End of Lawyers, and he points out that a lot of these premium tasks that they do can be split up into small tasks that can be automated by computers or crowdsourced, i.e. ask thousands of people over the net to find an answer. So even without changing the law, just through technological means, we can reduce the number of lawyers that are a burden on the country. In fact, it's no surprise that there have been 30,000 new laws under Labour. I don't know how people can obey the law when it's changing constantly, and it's because there are more lawyers in government than any other profession. And the reason the law is so complex, constantly changing, is simple. If you make the law as complex as possible, then fewer people can do it. Then they have to study longer, which means lawyers get less competition. I mentioned crowdsourcing just now. And also it means they're the only ones who can understand these arcane laws. Okay? And exactly the same thing happened thousands of years ago when writing was invented. Initially, this was very complex script, very difficult to learn because the priests wanted to monopolize it. There's no difference. It sounds strange comparing something in the 21st century to something centuries before Christ, but it is the same thing, making something complex to understand to maintain your monopoly. It's an economic piece of economic warfare. And let's get on to the moral question. Lawyers are paid to release criminals onto the streets. When they suggested a case, they don't think, is that person guilty or not guilty? No. They think, can I prove him innocent? It doesn't matter whether it's the truth or not. They build up their reputation, they get paid. Thanks for your time. Talk to you later. Bye, YouTube.